The massive space station hung in the darkness like a metal moon. Its silver walls stretched for miles in every direction, covered with bright lights that never stopped blinking. Ships from 12 different worlds came and went through its many docking bays. This was Kepler Prime, home to the Galactic Council, where the most powerful races in known space made decisions that affected billions of lives. Commander Jake Morrison walked through the long halls of the station. His human uniform looked plain and simple next to the colorful robes and metal armor worn by the alien diplomats around him. Other beings moved past him without looking his way. Some had blue skin and 3 eyes. Others looked like giant lizards walking on 2 legs. A few resembled huge insects with wings that sparkled in the artificial light. Jake had been coming to these meetings for 5 years now. Every month he sat in the same corner of the council chamber and listened to the same speeches. Earth had been given observer status 30 years ago. This meant humans could watch and listen, but they could not vote on anything important. They could ask for help, but the other races did not have to give it. The council chamber was enormous. 12 high chairs sat in a circle at the center of the room. Each chair was built for a different type of alien body. The Draknari chair looked like a throne made of black stone. The Nexari seat glowed with soft blue light. The Zephyrian chair floated 3 feet off the ground. In one corner of the room sat a small wooden bench. This was where the human representative sat during meetings. It was positioned so far from the main circle that Jake needed special equipment to hear what the council members were saying. The other diplomats called this area the primitive section, though they pretended not to mean any insult by it. Today's meeting started like all the others. The Altarian Chancellor Vexira called for order with her forearms spread wide. Her purple skin seemed to glow as she spoke in the common galactic language that all council members used. "We gather today to discuss matters of peace and security," Vexira announced. Her voice echoed through the vast chamber. "Ambassador Kethvar of the Zephyrians will present the first issue." Kethvar floated up from his chair. His people looked like tall, thin humans with gray skin and no hair. When he spoke, his words came out in a musical tone that made even bad news sound pleasant. "Honored council members," Kethvar began, "we have received troubling reports from the outer regions. Pirate ships have been attacking trade routes near several primitive systems. The worst attacks have happened close to the Sol system where the humans come from." Jake felt his heart beat faster. He had been waiting for someone to bring up the pirate problem. For months, Earth's outer colonies had been sending desperate messages asking for help. The attacks were getting worse each week. War Chief Thorxine of the Draknari stood up from his stone throne. He was 8 feet tall with green scales covering his body. Sharp teeth filled his mouth and his yellow eyes gleamed with amusement. "Pirates near human space," Thorxine said with a laugh that sounded like rocks grinding together. "Perhaps this is nature's way of teaching the primitives about the real galaxy. Those who cannot protect themselves do not deserve protection from others." Several council members made sounds of agreement. The Nexari ambassador Kilthon spoke next. His people looked like living machines, with metal parts replacing much of their original flesh. "The humans have had 30 years to build proper defenses," Kilthon said in a voice that buzzed like electronic equipment. "Instead, they waste their time on farming and art. Such species must learn hard lessons before they can join civilized society." Jake stood up from his wooden bench. "Honored Council," he said loudly. "Earth formally requests assistance in dealing with the pirate threat. Our people are dying. Whole colonies have gone silent." The chamber fell quiet. Then Thorxine began to laugh again. Soon other council members joined him. The sound filled the enormous room and seemed to go on forever. "Listen to the primitive," Thorxine said between laughs. "It asks for help like a child running to its parents. Tell me, human, what can your people offer in return for our protection? What do you have that we might want?" Jake kept his face calm, but inside he felt anger burning like fire. "Earth has always been willing to share our knowledge and resources with the Council." "Your knowledge," Kilthon repeated. "You still use chemical rockets to reach your own moon. Your computers are slower than our children's toys. Your weapons could not scratch the paint on our ships. What knowledge could primitives possibly have that would interest advanced civilizations?" Dr. Lisa Kane sat next to Jake on the wooden bench. She was Earth's top scientist and had been studying alien technology for 15 years. Her hands were clenched into fists, but her voice stayed steady when she spoke. "Perhaps the Council underestimates human capability," Lisa said carefully. "We may surprise you with what we have learned." This brought another round of laughter from the alien diplomats. Chancellor Vexira raised one of her 4 hands for silence. "The human speaks of surprises," she said with obvious amusement. "The only surprise would be if your people developed anything more advanced than better farming tools. The Council has made its decision regarding your request for assistance." She stood up and spread all 4 arms wide. "The Galactic Council officially denies Earth's request for military protection. Silent worlds receive silent treatment. If humans wish to be heard in this chamber, they must first prove they deserve a voice." One by one, the alien diplomats left their chairs and walked toward the exits. Their conversations filled the air with strange sounds and languages that Jake could not understand. Soon only he and Lisa remained in the vast empty chamber. 30 years, Lisa said quietly. 30 years of sitting in this corner and listening to them laugh at us. Jake picked up his datapad and began making notes about the meeting. His fingers moved quickly across the screen as he recorded every insult and dismissal. These records would be sent back to Earth within the hour. "They think silence means weakness," Jake said without looking up from his writing. "They assume we have been doing nothing all these years." Lisa smiled, but it was not a happy expression. "Let them keep thinking that. Some surprises are worth waiting for." They walked together toward the docking bay where their ship waited. Behind them, the empty council chamber seemed to echo with the sounds of alien laughter. But Jake and Lisa knew something that none of those laughing diplomats suspected. Earth's silence had not been the result of weakness or inability. It had been a choice. And soon the galaxy would learn what humanity had been choosing to do with all those quiet years. The message came during the early morning hours on Earth. Captain Ryan Barnes was drinking coffee in his small office aboard the EDS Guardian when the emergency signal started flashing on his communication screen. Red lights filled the room as the computer began playing the automatic distress call that every space officer feared to hear. "This is Europa Mining Station 7 calling all Earth defense ships. We are under attack by unknown vessels. Repeat, we are under attack. They came out of nowhere and our shields are failing. Please send help immediately." Ryan dropped his coffee cup and ran to the bridge of his ship. The Guardian was 40 years old and had been built from parts taken from decommissioned cargo vessels. It was one of only 12 ships that made up Earth's official defense fleet. The Galactic Council treaty limited humanity to these few outdated vessels, which were supposedly enough to handle pirates and small emergencies. "Get me a connection to Earth Defense Command," Ryan ordered his communications officer. Lieutenant Karen White quickly opened a channel to the military headquarters hidden beneath the Rocky Mountains. "This is Admiral Paul Foster," came a voice from Earth. "Captain Barnes, what is your status?" "We just received a distress call from Europa Station 7, Ryan replied. "Sir, we need to respond immediately." There was a long pause before Admiral Foster answered. "Take your ship and whatever support vessels you can gather. Move fast, Captain. This may be worse than we thought." Ryan gathered his small fleet within 2 hours. Besides the Guardian, he had the converted cargo ship Liberty Bell and the old mining vessel New Hope. 3 ships to face an unknown enemy. The journey to Europa would take 18 hours at maximum speed, but they were already too late. When Ryan's ships reached Jupiter's moon, they found only wreckage floating in space. The mining station that had housed 3,000 people was gone. In its place were twisted pieces of metal and frozen atmosphere that sparkled like deadly snow in the sunlight. "Sir," Lieutenant White said quietly, "I am picking up a message beacon." The message was short and cruel. It showed a Draknari pirate captain sitting on what looked like a throne made from human equipment. The alien's green scales were decorated with jewelry taken from the dead colonists. "Greetings, primitive humans," the pirate said in broken English. "I am Captain Vashator of the Void Reaper clan. Your people fought bravely but died quickly. We took everything of value and destroyed the rest. This is what happens to species who think they can claim territory in civilized space without proper protection." The message continued with more threats and demands for tribute. Ryan watched it twice before ordering his ships to search for survivors. They found none. 3 days later, the agricultural domes on Mars went silent. Then the research station on Titan stopped responding to messages. Each time, Ryan's small fleet arrived to find only destruction and mocking messages from the pirates. The enemy ships were stolen vessels from the Draknari and Nixari fleets. The pirates had weapons and shields that could destroy Earth's converted cargo ships without taking any damage in return. When Ryan tried to fight them near the asteroid belt, he lost the New Hope and barely escaped with the Guardian. On Earth, President Kate Williams called an emergency meeting of the Global Defense Council. The world's leaders gathered in the secure bunkers deep beneath Geneva, Switzerland. The meeting room was built to survive nuclear war, with thick concrete walls and air that was filtered through multiple systems. President Williams looked tired as she stood before the assembled leaders. Her gray hair was pulled back and her blue suit was wrinkled from not sleeping for 3 days. "The situation is worse than we feared," she began. "The pirates are not just random attackers. They have been given advanced ships and weapons by someone with access to Galactic Council technology. Our outer colonies are defenseless against this level of threat." The president of Russia leaned forward in his chair. "What about asking the Council for help again? Surely they cannot ignore direct attacks on human civilians." "I already tried," Williams replied. "Ambassador Kethvar told our diplomatic team that human colonies are outside Council protection zones. War Chief Thorxian suggested we should abandon space entirely and stay on Earth where primitives belong." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. Humanity was being pushed out of space by enemies they could not fight with their official military forces. Admiral Paul Foster stood up from his seat at the back of the room. He was a tall man with white hair and scars on his hands from years of working on ships. His uniform was plain black with no decoration except for a small Earth symbol on the collar. "Madam President," Foster said in a voice that carried clearly through the room, "it is time to activate Silent Thunder." Every leader in the room turned to look at him. Most had never heard that name before. President Williams nodded slowly. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, "what I am about to tell you is known only to a small group of people. For the past 25 years, humanity has been preparing for exactly this situation." She pressed a button on the table and the lights dimmed. A holographic display appeared in the center of the room, showing images that seemed impossible. Massive ships hung in space near asteroids that looked like ordinary rocks. Hidden factories stretched for miles underground. Weapons that gleamed with unknown energy were being loaded onto vessels, larger than anything the public had ever seen. Project Silent Thunder began the day we were granted Observer status at the Galactic Council, Williams continued. "We knew that someday our patience would be tested. We used those 30 years to study every piece of alien technology that came through our space. We built hidden shipyards in the asteroid belt and secret factories on the dark side of the moon." Dr. Robert Hayes stepped forward from where he had been standing near the wall. He was the head of Terradynamics Research Division, a company that most people thought built farming equipment and construction tools. "We did not just copy alien technology," Hayes explained. "We improved it. Human engineering combined with alien science has produced ships and weapons that surpass anything the Galactic Council possesses. Our quantum tunnel drives can move fleets across the galaxy in hours instead of weeks. Our adaptive armor learns from enemy attacks and becomes stronger with each hit." The holographic display showed more images. Thousands of ships arranged in perfect formations, soldiers wearing armor that made them look like metal giants, space stations that could destroy planets if needed. "How many ships?" asked the president of China. Admiral Foster smiled for the first time in weeks. 837 combat vessels ranging from fighters to dreadnoughts, plus support ships, medical vessels, and mobile repair stations, the largest fleet in known space, and the crews. 2 million volunteers from every nation on Earth. They have been training in secret facilities for years. Every one of them is ready to fight. President Williams looked around the room at the faces of the world's leaders. She could see shock, hope, and fear in their eyes. "The question before us now is simple," she said. "Do we reveal humanity's true strength to the galaxy? Do we show the aliens who mocked our silence what we have been building in the darkness?" The vote was unanimous. Admiral Foster activated his communicator and spoke a single sentence that would change the course of galactic history. "Operation Silent Thunder is now active. All ships prepare for deployment." In hidden bases across the solar system, alarms began to sound. Crews ran to battle stations on ships that most of humanity did not know existed. The largest military force in galactic history was about to emerge from the shadows where it had been waiting patiently for 25 years. The galaxy was about to learn that Earth's silence had never been surrender. The asteroid looked ordinary from the outside. It was just another piece of rock floating in the belt between Mars and Jupiter, no different from thousands of others that drifted through the darkness. But when Admiral Susan Clark spoke a single word into her communicator, everything changed. Awakening. The surface of the asteroid began to split apart like a flower opening in the morning sun. What had appeared to be solid rock was actually a carefully designed shell that hid the largest shipyard humanity had ever built. Massive doors opened to reveal docking bays that stretched for miles into the asteroid's core. Lights came on in perfect rows, illuminating ships that had been waiting in the darkness for 25 years. Susan stood on the bridge of the EFS Defiance, watching her hidden fleet come to life. The Defiance was 3 miles long and carried enough firepower to destroy entire planets. Its hull was made from a new metal that human scientists had created by combining Draknari durability with Nexari energy conduction. The result was armor that could absorb enemy attacks and turn that energy into power for the ship's weapons. All vessels report ready status, announced Commander Linda Peterson from her position at the communication station. Her voice carried across the bridge with calm authority that came from years of secret training. Susan nodded and opened a fleet-wide channel. This is Admiral Clark to all ships of the Terra Defense Fleet. Today we end our silence. Today the galaxy learns what humanity has built while they laughed at our weakness. All vessels begin deployment sequence. The asteroid shipyard erupted with activity. Ships of every size emerged from hidden bays like metal sharks swimming up from the deep ocean. The smallest were single-pilot fighters that moved with impossible speed and grace. The largest were carriers that could launch 1,000 attack craft and still have room for full armies of ground troops. Captain Mike Davis commanded the stealth destroyer, EFS Vengeance, from his position in the ship's combat center. His vessel was invisible to normal sensors and could appear anywhere in enemy space without warning. Mike had volunteered for the secret fleet program 15 years ago, leaving his wife and children to train in hidden facilities that officially did not exist. Target the pirate fleet near Saturn, Mike ordered his crew. We go in fast and quiet. Show them what real warships can do. The Vengeance and 5 other stealth ships moved through space like ghosts. They used quantum tunnel drives that folded space around them, allowing them to travel vast distances in seconds instead of hours. The pirates who had been terrorizing human colonies had no idea death was approaching at impossible speed. The pirate fleet was celebrating their latest victory when Mike's ships appeared out of nowhere. 20 stolen Draknari and Nexari vessels hung in space near Saturn's rings, their crews dividing treasure taken from human colonies. The pirates thought they were safe because no Earthship could reach them so quickly. They were wrong. The Vengeance opened fire first, its weapons cutting through pirate shields like paper. The ship's adaptive targeting system analyzed enemy defenses in real time and modified its attacks to exploit every weakness. Within seconds, 3 pirate vessels were drifting hulks filled with nothing but vacuum and regret. "This is impossible," screamed a pirate captain over the emergency frequency. "Human ships cannot do this. Where did you come from?" Mike smiled as he watched his tactical display. "We came from the silence you thought meant weakness," he replied. "And we brought friends." The other stealth destroyers appeared around the pirate fleet like predators surrounding prey. Their weapons fired in perfect coordination, each shot calculated to cause maximum damage while avoiding friendly fire. The pirates tried to fight back, but their stolen ships were no match for vessels designed specifically to hunt and kill. Commander Gary Thompson led the boarding parties that captured the surviving pirate ships. His Marines wore power armor that made them look like metal giants walking through space. The armor enhanced their strength, speed, and reflexes while protecting them from any weapon the pirates possessed. Each Marine could fight like 10 normal soldiers and survive attacks that would kill anyone else. "Secure the prisoners," Gary ordered as his teams moved through the captured ships. "Take all their navigation data and communication codes. We need to know who else is involved in these attacks." While the stealth ships dealt with the pirates, the main fleet continued emerging from hidden bases throughout the solar system. Admiral Clark watched the tactical display as hundreds of ships took their positions in the formation she had planned years ago. Every vessel was exactly where it needed to be, every crew ready to fight. Dr. Helen White worked from her position aboard the command ship. She had spent 20 years developing the technology that made this fleet possible. Her hybrid drive systems combined the best features of every alien propulsion method, while adding human improvements that made them faster and more efficient. "Admiral," Helen reported, "all ships are showing green status across all systems. Quantum tunnel drives are operating at 110% of design specifications. Our adaptive armor is responding perfectly to test scenarios." Susan nodded with satisfaction. Every system was working exactly as planned. The fleet that humanity had built in secret was not just larger than anything the galaxy had seen before. It was also more advanced than any alien technology. Captain Alex Turner commanded a squadron of reconnaissance ships that spread throughout the galaxy like invisible eyes and ears. His vessels used advanced sensor systems to monitor every major alien military installation without being detected. Within hours of the fleet's activation, Alex had complete information about the location and strength of every potential threat. Admiral Clark, Alex reported from his ship near the Draknari homeworld, "I have eyes on their entire fleet, 300 ships in orbit around their capital planet. They have no idea we are watching them." Similar reports came in from reconnaissance ships throughout alien space. The Nexari had 200 ships defending their core systems. The Zephyrians maintained a small but advanced fleet of 100 vessels. All told, the combined alien fleets numbered less than 800 ships. Humanity's fleet contained over 800 combat vessels, plus support ships that brought the total to more than 1,000. But numbers were not the only advantage. Every human ship was more advanced than its alien counterparts, with better weapons, stronger defenses, and crews trained specifically for combat. "Set course for Kepler Prime," Admiral Clark ordered. "It is time to pay a visit to the Galactic Council." The human fleet began moving through space in a formation that stretched for thousands of miles. Ships that had been hidden for decades finally showed themselves to the galaxy. Their hulls gleamed with new metal alloys that reflected starlight like mirrors. Their weapons hummed with energy that made space itself tremble. Captain Ryan Barnes, whose small fleet had been destroyed by pirates weeks earlier, now commanded a squadron of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. His new flagship was the EFS Guardian's Revenge, a heavy cruiser that carried enough firepower to level cities. Ryan had been given command of this ship as recognition for his brave attempt to protect human colonies with inadequate equipment. "Sir," Ryan's communications officer reported, "we are receiving surrender messages from pirate fleets throughout the outer systems. They are offering to return stolen property and release prisoners." Ryan smiled grimly. "Tell them it is too late for surrender. They should have thought about mercy before they started killing innocent people." The human fleet moved toward the heart of galactic civilization like a tide of metal and energy. Behind them, the wreckage of pirate ships drifted in space as a warning to anyone who might think about attacking human interests. Ahead of them waited the Galactic Council station where alien diplomats were about to learn that their years of mocking humanity had been a terrible mistake. For 30 years, Earth had remained silent while building the greatest military force in galactic history. Now that silence was ending, and the sound it made when it finally broke would echo throughout the galaxy for generations to come. The first alien to see the human fleet was a Zephyrian sensor operator named Kyle Van. He was working the night shift at a monitoring station near the outer edge of his people's territory when his equipment started showing readings that made no sense. Ships were appearing on his screens that should not exist, moving at speeds that violated everything he knew about space travel. "Supervisor," Kyle Van called across the control room, "I am detecting unknown vessels entering our space. The computer says there are over 200 of them, but that cannot be correct." His supervisor, an older Zephyrian with gray skin and tired eyes, floated over to look at the displays. What he saw made him forget 30 years of training in calm procedure. "Alert the homeworld immediately," the supervisor whispered, "and send a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them the impossible has happened." Similar scenes played out across alien space as the human fleet spread throughout the galaxy. Ships that had been invisible for decades suddenly announced their presence to every sensor system within light years. The vessels moved in perfect formation, their courses calculated to pass near every major alien world without actually threatening them. The message was clear. Humanity could go anywhere they wanted, whenever they chose. On the Draknari homeworld, War Chief Thorkson stood in his command center staring at tactical displays that showed his worst nightmare coming true. Human ships filled the space around his planet like metal clouds, their hulls reflecting the light from his system's twin suns. The vessels were larger than anything his people had ever built, and their energy signatures suggested weapons that could crack planets in half. "How many ships?" Thorkson asked his chief advisor, though his voice shook as he spoke the words. "Our sensors count 412 vessels within scanning range," came the reply. "But sir, there may be more that we cannot detect. Some of these ships appear and disappear. from our screens as if they exist only when they choose to be seen. Thorks. And had spent his entire life believing that Draknari military technology was the finest in the galaxy. His people's ships were built for war, with thick armor and powerful weapons that could destroy any enemy. But the human vessels made his finest warships look like children's toys made from scrap metal. Send a message to the human fleet, Thorksine ordered. Tell them that the Draknari Confederation wishes to open diplomatic communications. It was the first time in recorded history that Thorksine had asked to talk instead of demanding submission. The Nexari homeworld was experiencing similar shock. Ambassador Kilthon stood in the central processing chamber of his people's capital city, watching data streams that showed human technology advancing beyond anything his race had achieved. The metal parts of his body hummed with electronic distress as he processed information that challenged everything he believed about galactic civilization. Analysis. Complete, announced the central computer in a voice that sounded like musical tones played through crystal. Human vessels display technological capabilities that exceed Nexari standards by an estimated 400%. Their propulsion systems utilize unknown principles of space-time manipulation. Their defensive systems appear to adapt and improve during simulated combat scenarios. Kilthon's organic brain struggled to accept what his mechanical enhancements were telling him. How is this possible? The humans were primitives. Their technology was centuries behind ours. Previous assessment was incorrect, the computer replied with mechanical certainty. Current data suggests that human technology has been deliberately concealed. The species previously classified as primitive must be reclassified as advanced beyond current galactic standards. Throughout the galaxy, similar conversations were taking place as alien civilizations realized that their understanding of humanity had been completely wrong. The species they had mocked and dismissed as primitive farmers had become the most powerful military force in known space. Dr. Helen White broadcast a message from the human fleet that reached every alien world simultaneously. Her words were translated into dozens of languages and sent through communication networks that spanned the galaxy. People of the galaxy, Helen began, speaking from the bridge of the EFS Retribution, for 30 years, you have watched humanity sit quietly in the corner of your council chambers. You mistook our patience for weakness. You confused our silence for inability. Today, you learn the truth about what we have been doing with those quiet years. The message continued with images of human technology that made alien scientists question everything they thought they knew about physics. Ships that could fold space around themselves. Weapons that learned and adapted to enemy defenses. Armor that became stronger with each attack it survived. We did not build this fleet to conquer, Helen explained. We built it to protect. For too long, pirates and raiders have terrorized peaceful worlds while the Galactic Council did nothing. That ends today. Captain Alex Turner's reconnaissance ships had been busy gathering intelligence throughout alien space. His vessels remained invisible while recording everything they observed about alien military capabilities, government structures, and potential threats to galactic peace. Admiral Clark, Alex reported from his ship near the Nexari core worlds. I have completed analysis of all major alien fleets. Combined, they possess fewer than 800 combat vessels. None of their ships display technology comparable to our baseline cruisers, much less our advanced units. Admiral Clark received similar reports from reconnaissance teams throughout the galaxy. The alien civilizations that had seemed so powerful and advanced were actually using outdated technology and maintaining smaller fleets than anyone had realized. The Galactic Council's authority had been based on bluff and reputation, rather than actual military strength. Prepare a message for broadcast to all alien governments, Clark ordered. It is time they understood the new reality. Her message was brief and direct. This is Admiral Susan Clark of the Terra Defense Fleet, speaking for the people of Earth. For 30 years we have requested your protection and been denied. We have asked for your respect and been given mockery instead. Today we demonstrate that humanity no longer requires permission to defend itself or others. The message included tactical data that showed human ships positioned throughout alien space. Every major military installation was under observation. Every important trade route was being patrolled. Every planet that had ever hosted pirate activity was now within range of human weapons. We do not seek conquest or tribute, Clark continued. We seek only peace and the protection of innocent beings throughout the galaxy. Any who threaten peaceful worlds will face the consequences of their actions. The alien governments reacted with panic and confusion. Emergency sessions convened on every homeworld as leaders tried to understand how the balance of galactic power had shifted so dramatically. The species they had dismissed as harmless primitives now commanded a fleet that could destroy any civilization that opposed them. Chancellor Vexira of the Altarians called for an immediate meeting of the Galactic Council. Her forearms shook with fear as she sent the message that would bring all the alien leaders together in crisis session. The council must convene immediately, her message stated. The human situation has changed beyond all previous assessments. We require immediate consultation to determine appropriate response to this new development. But even as the aliens scrambled to respond to humanity's revelation, the human fleet continued its demonstration of power throughout the galaxy. Pirate bases that had operated for decades were destroyed in minutes. Raiders who had terrorized trade routes for years surrendered without firing a shot. Criminal organizations that thought themselves untouchable discovered that human justice could reach anywhere in the galaxy. Captain Mike Davis led cleanup operations throughout the outer systems, his stealth ships hunting down every criminal organization that had preyed on peaceful worlds. Each successful mission sent a clear message to anyone who might consider following in the pirates' footsteps. Commander Gary Thompson's Marines established security stations on worlds that had never known peace, their presence ensuring that no raider would dare attack innocent settlements. The power armor that had seemed impossible to alien observers became a symbol of hope for worlds that had lived in fear. Within 1 week of the fleet's activation, pirate activity throughout the galaxy had dropped to zero. Trade routes that had required armed escorts for decades became safe for civilian traffic. Worlds that had begged the Galactic Council for protection for years suddenly found themselves under the shield of human military power. The galaxy was learning that humanity's silence had never been weakness or fear. It had been the quiet preparation of a species that understood the difference between talking about justice and delivering it. Now that the silence was broken, the sound of human power echoed through every star system in known space, and no alien civilization would ever again mistake Earth's patience for powerlessness. The human fleet arrived at Kepler Prime like a moving constellation of metal and light. Ships stretched across the space around the Galactic Council station in formations that seemed to go on forever. The largest vessels cast shadows over the diplomatic facility that had once seemed so impressive and powerful. Now the station looked like a small toy floating among giants. Admiral Susan Clark stood on the bridge of the EFS Defiance, watching the alien station grow larger on her main screen. Behind her ship came hundreds of others, each one representing years of secret planning and hidden construction. The fleet that had been built in silence was finally showing itself to the galaxy in all its terrible magnificence. "Admiral," reported Commander Linda Peterson, "we are receiving urgent messages from the Council station. They are requesting immediate communication with our diplomatic representative." Clark smiled without humor. "Tell them that our diplomatic representative is already on his way." A small shuttle launched from the Defiance and headed toward the Council station's docking bay. But this was not the same type of ship that had carried human diplomats for 30 years. The new shuttle gleamed with advanced armor and moved with the grace of a predator. Its escort of 12 fighter craft made it clear that humanity was no longer asking for permission to speak. Inside the council chamber, the alien representatives who had once laughed at human weakness now sat in stunned silence. The viewing screens around the room showed images of the human fleet that filled every corner of nearby space. Ships that dwarfed their finest vessels hung motionless in perfect formation, their weapons powered but not yet aimed at any target. War Chief Thorxine stared at the displays with the expression of someone watching his own funeral. His green scales had turned pale with shock, and his usual arrogant posture had been replaced by the hunched shoulders of defeat. "This cannot be real," he whispered to himself. "Primitives cannot build such ships. There must be some mistake, but there was no mistake." The sensor readings were clear and undeniable. Humanity had become the dominant military power in the galaxy, while everyone else was laughing at their supposed weakness. The chamber doors opened, and Commander Jake Morrison walked in, but he was not alone. 6 Marines in power armor flanked him, their metal suits making them look like walking weapons of war. The same aliens who had mocked Jake for years now shrank back in their chairs as he approached the center of the chamber. Jake's uniform was different too. Instead of the simple cloth outfit he had worn as an observer, He now wore the formal dress uniform of the Terra Defense Fleet. Medals and ribbons decorated his chest, marking him as a veteran of conflicts that the aliens had never known existed. "Honored council members," Jake said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber without any need for amplification equipment. "I bring greetings from Earth and an offer of friendship to all peaceful civilizations." He gestured toward the viewing screens that showed the human fleet. "As you can see, humanity has been busy during our years of silence. We have built a military force capable of protecting not just our own people, but any who wish to live in peace." Chancellor Vexira struggled to find her voice. Her forearms trembled as she spoke. "Commander Morrison, we had no knowledge of your military capabilities. The Council wishes to discuss the implications of this development." "There is nothing to discuss," Jake replied calmly. "For 30 years, this Council denied our requests for protection, while pirates attacked our colonies and killed our people. You told us that silent worlds receive silent treatment. Today we break our silence and the entire galaxy can hear what we have to say." President Kate Williams arrived on the station 6 hours later, but she did not come alone. Her flagship, the EFS Constitution, was larger than the Council station itself. When she entered the chamber, she was accompanied by Admiral Foster and Dr. Helen White, along with military commanders who represented the finest of human space forces. "Madam President," Chancellor Vexira said with obvious nervousness, "the Council welcomes the opportunity to discuss Earth's new status in galactic affairs." Williams took her place not in the corner where humans had been forced to sit for 30 years, but at a new chair that had been quickly installed at the center of the Council circle. The other members had made room for her without being asked. They understood that the balance of power had shifted permanently. "I come to offer a new charter for galactic civilization," Williams announced, "one based on capability and contribution rather than age and arrogance. Humanity will share our defensive technology with any peaceful civilization that wishes to help protect innocent worlds from raiders and pirates." She activated a holographic display that showed the current state of galactic security. The images revealed information that the Council members had never possessed. Complete maps of pirate activity, detailed intelligence about criminal organizations, and analysis of threats that had been ignored for decades. "Your Council failed to protect peaceful worlds because you were more interested in maintaining your own prestige than in actually helping anyone," Williams continued. "That ends today. Earth will take responsibility for galactic security, with or without your cooperation." Ambassador Kilthon of the Nexari spoke with a voice that buzzed with electronic uncertainty. "What do you require from the Council in return for this protection?" "Nothing," Williams replied. "Protection of innocent life is not something we sell. It is something we provide because it is right." This answer seemed to shock the aliens even more than the fleet itself. They had expected demands for territory, tribute, or political control. The idea that humanity would offer protection without requiring payment was completely outside their understanding. Over the following days, the new reality of galactic power became clear. Admiral Clark dispatched rescue fleets to worlds that had been suffering under pirate attacks for years. Human ships arrived faster than any alien military had ever responded, eliminated threats with surgical precision, and left without claiming any reward or territory. Captain Ryan Barnes commanded one of these rescue operations, leading a squadron to defend a Zephyrian colony that had been under siege for months. His ships arrived to find the colonists preparing for their final defeat. But within hours, the pirate fleet was destroyed and the settlement was safe. "Why do you help us?" asked the colony's leader, an elderly Zephyrian whose gray skin showed the marks of stress and fear. "Our people mocked yours for decades. We deserve no kindness from humanity." Ryan looked out at the wreckage of the pirate ships floating in space around the colony. "We do not help you because you deserve it," he said quietly. "We help you because you need it. That is what civilized people do." Similar scenes played out throughout the galaxy as human forces eliminated threats that alien governments had ignored or been unable to handle. The species that had once laughed at Earth's request for protection now relied on human ships to guard their trade routes and defend their colonies. Commander Gary Thompson established training programs where alien military units could learn to work alongside human forces. His Marines taught tactics and techniques that revolutionized the way other species approached military operations. The power armor technology that had seemed impossible to alien observers was shared freely with any government that committed to using it only for defense. Dr. Helen White opened research facilities where human and alien scientists could work together on projects that benefited all civilizations. The technology that had been developed in secret was now being used to improve life throughout the galaxy. Medical advances, energy systems, and communication networks all improved dramatically as human innovation spread to other worlds. The Galactic Council still existed, but its role had changed completely. Instead of a governing body that made decisions for everyone else, it became a forum where different civilizations could request help and coordinate peaceful activities. The real authority now belonged to the Terra Defense Fleet, which patrolled every system and protected every world that chose to accept their guardianship. Captain Alex Turner's reconnaissance ships continued their invisible watch over potential threats. But now they also monitored for natural disasters, medical emergencies, and other crises that required rapid response. The network of human vessels that covered the galaxy became a safety net that caught problems before they could become catastrophes. 1 year after the fleet's revelation, Chancellor Vexira stood before a gathering that included representatives from over 50 different civilizations. Many of these species had never been allowed to speak in the old council, but the new system welcomed any peaceful group that wanted to participate. Today we celebrate the first anniversary of the Great Awakening, she announced, using the name that historians had given to humanity's emergence as a galactic power. 1 year ago we learned that our assumptions about strength and weakness were completely wrong. We discovered that the species we had dismissed as primitive had become our protectors and teachers. She gestured toward the human section of the chamber, where Jake Morrison sat with other Earth representatives, but now they occupied a place of honor rather than a corner of shame. The humans could have used their superior technology to conquer us all, Vexira continued. Instead, they chose to protect us.